Welcome to Trinidad and Tobago Opposition's media briefing this Wednesday, the 10th of July, 2024, discussing national security and local government issues. Today, we have presenting MP Dr. Roodal Moonilal, Shadow for National Security, Works and Transport and Housing, and MP Khadijah Ameen, Shadow for Local Government. We will begin our press conference shortly. Thank you for joining us, and in the meanwhile, please share the live.
As you walk with us to the part of life, you will never have to walk alone. Come on!
We stand united in the belief that if you empower a community, the community empowers the country.
We are the party that gave every child a secondary school education since 2001.
By building more schools in 11 years than others did in 40. We believe that no child,
rich or poor, should be left behind.
Which is why we give every 4-month student a laptop to expand their minds and their dreams.
We are the party that put police cars back on the streets
and gave the police a $1,000 bonus because we believe that we should support the persons who are protecting you.
We are the party that reduced the murder rate to its lowest in 14 years. We expanded GATE, stopped the property tax, and increased maternity leave.
We are the party that invested in you and in your community by investing in schools, community centers, lighted parks, 24-hour health centers, and the most extensive road repair program in decades.
We believe that education is always a solution and that no one should have to pick between sending their child to school or buying food.
We are the party that works for you. We are the first responders in every situation, working to deliver a better standard of living for you and your family.
And most importantly, we have confidence in you, the people of Trinidad and Tobago. This is not a campaign, it's a movement based on building communities and strengthening families.
Come out and join us and together we will get the nation working and moving again. Our children will once again have access to gate and technology.
We will improve healthcare.
By cutting the time it takes to see a doctor in an emergency, we will establish a senior citizen unit in every major hospital and staff the hospital with the doctors and nurses you need to create a first-class healthcare system. We will focus on creating high-paying jobs, fixing our laws to remove red tape, and ensuring that you and your family are safer. We will reduce corporate taxes to jumpstart the economy, create a special investment zone along the East-West corridor, and work with entrepreneurs to build a digital economy. This is an investment in your community to move the nation forward and get TNT working again.
Whether you are from 4th Street in Barataria to Railway Road in Dow Village, from Green Street in Tunapuna to Clark Road in Debe, from La Hokita to Maruga, from Miaro to Scarborough, we are one people with the same dreams of a better tomorrow. And when we stand together, we win together. We are UNC and proud.
Everybody now, let's go. Come on, come on. Hey. Whoa, oh, whoa, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Whoa, oh, whoa, oh, yeah, yeah.
It's time to make a difference. It's time to turn that page. We got to do the right things if we want brighter days. Cause things ain't getting easy and the road ahead is tough. It's up to you and I to make the madness stop.
Every day the things getting harder, and every day the things getting rough, and every day they hike the food prices and they implementing more tax for the sake of our twin nation and the youth of the next generation. Let's stand united, show we not divided. Let's show them now and send them a message now.
Show them that we're the voice of hope.
Send them a message now.
Show them that our country ain't no joke.
Send them a message now.
Show them that we're the ones who care.
Send them a message now.
Oh, 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 yeah, yeah.
Everybody now. Whoa, oh, whoa, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Whoa, oh, whoa, oh, yeah, yeah.
From a distance, look at the picture. Tell me what you see.
What you see?
An abstract of destruction to destroy you and me. We got to do.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the press, members of the listening audience, those of you joining us on the various social media platforms, supporters of the United National Congress, well-wishers in Trinidad and Tobago and abroad, joining us this morning. This morning we will host at our headquarters in Chaguanas, Trinidad, our midweek press conference to update and alert citizens of Trinidad and Tobago in the main in Trinidad and Tobago will also brief members of the press on specific issues relating to local government, relating to national security, housing and works and infrastructure. Without any further ado, I wanted to introduce a Member of Parliament for the constituency of St. Augustine, former chairman of the Tanapuna-Piaco Regional Corporation, former senator, and our shadow minister of local government in the Parliament of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, the Honorable Ms. Khadijah Ameen, who will speak to us on matters pertinent to her shadow portfolio and related issues affecting the people of Trinidad and Tobago. So please welcome Ms. Khadijah Ameen. Good luck.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I want to begin by expressing condolences to the family of Robin Mahadeo, who died because of dengue. and whose niece was in the ICU. I understand she came out this morning. Mr. Mahadeo and 11 members of his family contracted dengue. And there's a fear that more people will die. There is a public health emergency in Trinidad and Tobago, and it is very clear that the government is not able to handle it. The Caribbean Public Health Agency last week, CAFRA, indicated that they described this thing as an outbreak. And the CAFRA's interim director, Dr. Lisa Indar, said the region of the Americas has seen a 200-fold increase in suspected dengue cases in the first half of 2024 compared to the same period in 2023 last year. And member states are encouraged to remain vigilant. It is crucial that surveillance, prevention, and control measures are boosted to reduce the transmission of the virus in the Caribbean. Senior Technical Officer for the vector-borne diseases at CAFRA, Rajesh Raghu, urged countries and communities to be proactive. The question this morning, has our government been proactive? Has our government been implementing any additional surveillance, prevention, and control measures? And has the government done enough to boost the reduction of the transmission of the virus and the mosquito presence in Trinidad and Tobago? And the clear answer is no. There must be experts and expert agencies stepping in to combat dengue in Trinidad and Tobago, including in rural areas. Entomologists, public health inspectors, environmental health professionals, data collection, and mosquito surveillance are all professions that are needed in having a comprehensive, integrated approach to mosquito management. The Insect Vector Control Division in Trinidad and Tobago falls under the Minister of Health, and it is supposed to take the lead and to be supported by local government bodies, but that is not happening. They are supposed to take the lead in the biological, chemical, environmental, and mechanical strategies, and the regional corporations would provide manpower and assist in operations. The Insect Vector Division is the authorized body for design and implementation, for research, for plans to support the selection of new insecticide products, and they are supposed to give the regional corporations guidance accordingly. Because of the lack of proper management, because of incompetence on the part of the Minister of Health, you have a lack of resources, a lack of human resources, a lack of vehicles and equipment, as well as chemicals. And we also have a breakdown because the health agencies are not sharing as much information as they should with the regional corporations who are supposed, and that is supposed to help to guide them in their approach to combating dengue. We have had numerous reports from various regional corporations. The chairman of the Princestown Regional Corporation, Mr. Gauri Rupnarayan, earlier this week called for more funding to be provided to combat dengue. He also indicated that the regional corporation, because of lack of funding, was unable to assist the Insect Vector Control Division, and as they would have done previously, to provide vehicles, manpower, and equipment in eradicating the infestation of mosquitoes in the region. In another regional corporation in Couva, the chairman of the Couva Regional Corporation, Ryan Rampasad, indicated that part of Couva region falls in the Caroni County Ministry of Health. They have one ULV machine, and it broke down earlier this week. The question is, what additional resources has the minister put in place based on the CAFRA recommendation to improve control measures to boost the reduction of the transmission of dengue. We have had a response from the Minister of Health. The Minister of Health, when he was asked about the situation in areas such as Woodland and Penal and Barrackpore, where Mr. Mahadeo contracted the dengue virus, he indicated basically that, the Aedes aegypti breeds in clean water. The minister is basically making excuses for the failure of his government. The incompetence of the Minister of Works and Transport, as well as the Minister of Rural Development and Local Government, and their negligence and their inability to clear water courses is being covered up by the minister now blaming citizens. He has indicated that there's a concern about overspraying, as it will be, the mosquitoes may become resistant and you may affect the ecosystem negatively. And I want to ask the minister this morning, what about underspraying? This is just a pathetic excuse and a justification for not spraying. Your concern at this time cannot be overspraying because you have been underspraying for the past few months. The minister also indicated that public health inspectors will be authorized to issue fines under the yellow fever regulation to residents who fail to maintain their properties. So they will be given 7 days to clean up, and if they don't, they will be fined. I am asking this morning, Minister, why wait until there is an outbreak to enforce this? You are always reactive and never proactive. We have seen a surge in dengue cases concentrated in the Victoria, Caroni, and St. Patrick counties, which is reported to account for cases of dengue. And I ask, what steps have been taken to utilize resources to control the spread of the virus? We had earlier this week as well 2 persons who lost their lives from dengue, including a 16-year-old child from Faizabad. Again, this falls in the St. Patrick County, and the insect vector in this area appears to be severely handicapped. They do not even have functioning vehicles. What you have now is a strain on the resources of the Superior Borough Corporation, whose limited staff are now overwhelmed, and where you have the population making so many requests, and our councillors are now being pressured to respond. The Superior region additionally have to come to deal with this St. Patrick division of the insect vector control, and they have been plagued by equipment maintenance problems and non-functioning air-conditioned units at their headquarters. So even the accommodation, the space where the staff are, is severely affected. The MP for Faizabad, Dr. Lakram Bodo, who is a real doctor, earlier this week raised a concern. There is no entomologist on staff for several years to provide scientific guidance and oversight at the insect vector unit. He has recommended that laboratory testing to confirm suspected cases also needs to be stepped up to allow doctors to be more expeditiously diagnose and treat dengue cases, especially those where there is a higher risk of dengue hemorrhagic fever. So we ask the question, where does the regional corporation come in? We are seeing a failure from the Minister of Health. We have seen over the years underfunding and under-resourcing of the insect vector unit. Many would recall years ago where the insect vector personnel would visit homes and place granules in containers to prevent mosquito breeding, as well as to advise citizens on cleaning up and keeping their premises clean. The failure that has led to the government's lack of ability to treat with the dengue outbreak is not only on the Minister of Health, but it also feeds into the Minister of Works, who has a responsibility to clear water courses, as well as many roadways where there is illegal dumping that the Ministry of Works is responsible for. Under the Ministry of Local Government, drainage and clearing of debris in watercourses is an issue. The construction of box drains is also a challenge because many regional corporations have not received their funding to do box drains and other developmental work that would reduce flooding. We are coming close to the end of the financial year and you still have corporations that have had zero releases. They used to call the UNC the box drain government, but box drains work. Box drains have a purpose. You also had a dismantling of the litter prevention wardens units in regional corporations. In 2015, when the PNM government came into office, they fired all the litter wardens in all the regional corporations. After several years, they hired back some. Litter prevention wardens help deal with vacant lots. They take persons who are errant to court. They deal with derelict vehicles on the road as well as in private premises. Where you have dumping sites, they also do surveillance. What you have now is that there are less litter prevention wardens to warn and advise and monitor and do surveillance. You also have a reduction in the allocation for garbage collection in many regional corporations. This has led to the regional corporations reducing the number of days that they collect garbage. So solid waste management is not only the responsibility of the individual citizen to clean up their premises, but when they do clean up these premises and they put the stuff on the roadside, when is the garbage truck going to come and pick it up? And does the corporation have the capacity to collect all the garbage that will be put out if all citizens comply? The minister, in an article in The Guardian today, indicated that citizens will be fined $3,500 for having premises that need to be cleaned up. And again, we ask the question, why take this approach instead of being proactive? Citizens who are willing to comply, if they are to clean up and put excessive garbage on the roadway, the regional corporations must be given the resources to collect this garbage in a speedy manner. That are abandoned, you must have the capacity to legally deal with the errant owner as well as to clean it up to prevent mosquitoes from breeding. What this means is that when the garbage is not being collected on the roadside, people tend to go to illegal dumping sites to throw their garbage. Many of you across the country would know of long stretches of roadway, lonely roads, where people dump garbage. And regional corporations are grappling to clean up this mess. All of these are opportunities for mosquitoes to breed in clean water. So we are asking that the Minister of Local Government be engaged to ensure that a comprehensive drainage clearing program is conducted in every regional corporation, to ensure that the funds required for the construction of box drains and infrastructure related to reducing to drainage, that the funds be released. We are asking that litter prevention wardens in all regional corporations be boosted. We are asking for a comprehensive vacant lot clearing program in every region, including to deal with derelict vehicles as well as illegal dumping sites. Only then would it be fair to ask citizens to pay a fine of $3,500 if they are errant. At this time, the state has a responsibility. And when you raise the issue of lack of funding in the regional corporations, the first thing the Minister of Local Government says, property tax. Property tax seems to be the government's solution for everything on earth. All of their incompetence, all of their underperformance. We in the opposition are calling for an immediate stop to property tax. The government seems to still have no idea what they are doing. The Minister of Finance himself admitted that the implementation of property tax has been challenging, with the government, as he says, navigating in uncharted territory. And while the minister is attempting to paint the Property Tax Act as a solution to all the historic disparities in taxation, it is very clear that the government's approach has only been exacerbating inequalities in our country. The property tax relies on annual rental values as a basis for property taxation, and that is inherently flawed. The ARVs may not accurately reflect the true market value of properties, leading to disparities in taxation between similar properties or properties of similar value. And we have evidence of several persons who would have brought their document they received from the Ministry of Finance indicating the assessment done by the Ministry of Finance for their property. And we are saying there are so many disparities. How are you valuing properties? Are you taking aerial photos with drones and valuing properties based on the square footage of people's roofs? Are you not following any criteria, or are you just attempting to fast-track implementation? Whether you pay 3% or 2% or 10% for that fact, the fact remains that you are paying on a flawed assessment. And the only rate we believe should be paid at this time is 0%. Instead of rushing to implement property tax and all the amendments, the government needs to prioritize developing equitable and sustainable solutions that will address the root cause of taxation inefficiencies and inequalities. The government needs to address its own methods of bringing resources to Trinidad and Tobago. And this does not involve taxes. My friends, we are seeing an approach by the government where they have shut down Petrotrin and a number of other initiatives that were responsible for bringing resources to our country's coffers. The government seems to have now resorted to tax, and more tax. They have the property tax on the table, and they have also, let me remind you, threatened to increase electricity rates, another way of collecting revenue from citizens. So in addition to the new heavy taxes, this cruel government is now attempting to further burden the pocket of taxpayers through increased electricity rates. And they are once again looking to suffer citizens of this country to bail them out of their incompetence and their bad decisions. And I want to remind the population that there were several consultations throughout the country. I attended many of them. Our UNC representatives attended, and our shadow for public utilities was present at all these consultations, Mr. Barry Padarat. And that proposal to increase electricity rates was heavily rejected by the citizens. We have not heard anything on this matter, and we are asking, do you intend to ignore the contributions from those consultations? Was the consultation then just a farce? Are you going to neglect the voices of the citizens? Are you going to continue by increasing electricity rates, continue by bringing property tax as a way to compensate for your incompetence? The situation that we are facing now with this dengue outbreak is serious. CAFRA has indicated the seriousness of what they call an outbreak, not the UNC. I am calling on Minister of Health to stop politicizing the dengue issue. It is a very serious matter. The data and the statistics support what we are saying. We are not making unreasonable requests. This is as a result of your neglect for quite some time. Insect vector division units all over Trinidad and Tobago are understaffed. We have several reports of areas where there are no vehicles or vehicles that are only partially functional. We have many of the employees who take monies out of their pocket to purchase tires to repair vehicles, to put brakes on the vehicle, so that they could go and do the work and to serve the public. We have ULV machines that have not been functioning, while the regional corporations have engaged to do spraying of households. We need to have better collaboration between the Insect Control Division and the regional corporations so that they will be guided by scientific data. In our regional corporations, the funding that is available for insect vector control initiatives also has to be boosted, because the regional corporations help man the operational aspect, and they should be guided by the experts at the Insect Vector Division. It is very clear that the Minister of Health is burying his head in the sand by not acknowledging the problem, and it will not help Trinidad and Tobago if the minister continues to politicize this issue. So this morning, the opposition is calling on the Minister of Health, on the Minister of Local Government, and the Minister of Works to do what is necessary to reduce the dengue outbreak in Trinidad and Tobago, to reduce the breeding grounds for mosquitoes, and to ensure that the mosquito population is controlled in every part of Trinidad as well as in Tobago. I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, the Member of Parliament for St. Augustine, the Honourable Khadijah Ameen. And Ms. Ameen will return, I believe, later in the proceedings to take questions from members of the press and members of the public. Thank you. We'll now proceed to discuss a few matters related in the main to the issue of security facing Trinidad and Tobago at this very difficult time, this very troubling time. Members of the press, over the last few days, I don't need to remind citizens of Trinidad and Tobago that we have continued to face the crisis of crime, insecurity, and the breakdown of law and order. There has been no significant decrease in any rate in murder, in home invasion. The problem of extortion facing the business community has continued without any redress at all. So that what we have is a continuation of homicide, gang-related violence, home invasions, extortion, brutal crime. As Sister Khadijah Ameen told us a few minutes ago, this is a government that cannot protect us from a mosquito. They cannot protect us from a mosquito. And we expect them to protect us from bandits, murderers, kidnappers. I'll come to Tobago in a few minutes, which is a very important issue facing the national community now and in the news, very topical now. But the government cannot protect us from the dengue because of their mismanagement, because of the collapse of the local government system under the PNM, where they have failed to provide resources. I will also indicate on that matter, I've taken note that the government, just like dealing with crime and other problems, they seek to bully the population, to tell you if you have a bucket of water in the yard and you don't clean it up and so on and it breed mosquito, what is the fine? $3,500 for you. But when you go at state facilities, you go onto the compound of government schools, you go onto the compound of hospitals, you go onto the compound of community centers and so on, you will see, because of the poor infrastructure, accumulating water, mosquitoes breeding and so on. So who is going to charge the government? They charge themselves? The government should be charged. And this is a collapse of infrastructure. And as the Shadow Minister of Works as well, I want to tell you that if you fail to provide and upgrade and rehabilitate infrastructure, your drains, your rivers, simple canals and so on, you will have this problem of mosquito infestation and you will have the problem of dengue. And that is a collapse of infrastructure and a failure to provide resources, as Sister Ameen said, to the local government bodies so that they can undertake their work. In my constituency, I can tell you, there are businessmen in the Penal Debe area who are saying that, listen, The government is not giving the Penal Debe Regional Corporation money. We will pool our resources and buy the chemicals ourselves and protect our community. Because when their children are in the hospital, when their loved one die, the PNM doesn't care. This is a careless government. They care nothing. This is a government that will dig out your eye. And they have no feeling of sympathy or compassion. So that the ministers today have no sense of feeling that the loved ones have died because of dengue. In fact, in the parliament, I want to remind you, when members of the opposition raised this issue, they got offended because we used the term outbreak. In fact, all of them there there was an outbreak of anger. When we used the word outbreak, they felt, oh no, don't use that. The World Health Organization might hear, the PAHO might hear. But this is the facts that we are facing today. This, as you see on your screen, this mosquito invasion across the land. Just this morning, I had cause to be in touch with my constituents in a specific area concerning spraying and so on. And as I said, Sister Khadijah has dealt with that. While that was happening, brothers and sisters of the press, the Prime Minister has remained silent on what we call the Jindal scandal, where they believe it slipped over the table and it went under the carpet. But we will continue to raise this issue of the Jindal scandal, where the Prime Minister has more than hinted that this government intends to undertake some type of business arrangements for the refinery in Pointe-à-Pierre with Naveen Jindal, an Indian businessman who the facts suggest is before the courts on serious matters of corruption and bribery and related criminal offenses. And the Prime Minister said he didn't know about that. He didn't know about that. But when he in Parliament, he know who charged in Parliament. He know who going to be charged. He know who have matters before police and court. But he doesn't know that a man come in the house and the man is before the courts for corruption. Now that's a very thing when man come in your house and you don't know what kind of man it is. Huh? It's serious business. But the Prime Minister of all people has people in his house charged. In fact, the person from Venezuela, I think a vice president, was someone banned and sanctioned by the United States, was in the diplomatic center. Increasingly, that diplomatic center in Port of Spain is appearing to be Golden Grove in Aruca. It is now attracting persons of ill repute, international criminal elements, persons involved in cross-border white-collar crime. They are attracted now, not to Golden Grove, not to Nelson Island. They are attracted to the diplomatic center. And you ask why? Because they are encouraged. And I will leave that there for now, but we'll come back to that. The Prime Minister, of course, took a couple weeks away from his globe trotting and his global trips to attend a couple matters in Trinidad, including a big PNM family day. I took note, Skinner Park will need to be investigated properly by an incoming UNC administration. They have spent $200 million in Skinner Park to build 2 pavilions. To this day, you cannot play adult football matches there. You play kindergarten football, not adult. And he's boasting about that. Then boasting, you all see how we blight the cricket? He boasting about cricket at the Brian Lara International Cricket. And boasting that the international cricket came to the Brian Lara, which they completed. Well, when they start the cricket match, I think one team out for 56 runs or something like that. And they vow never to play there again because of the pitch conditions. And that is the problem we were dealing with all the time. When they completed the Brian Lara, they said they completed it for less money than the partnership was asking for to complete. So what was the money for under the partnership? You know, today they are going out to tender for works at the Brian Lara to the tune of $80 million to fix the Brian Lara Stadium after spending $1.1 billion. And I need to say this because people don't understand the comparison. They had a World Cup recently of cricket. In the United States, somewhere in New York, I believe, the state of New York, they played cricket there. The stadium was built in 6 months for $235 million TT dollars. They built a stadium for a World Cup cricket matches for $235 million TT dollars in New York State in 6 months. We took 14 years to build a stadium for 1.1 billion Trinidad and Tobago dollars. with another 80 million to be spent. And that is governance, P&M style. I put it to you. Then another matter I wanted to raise here concerned this matter of the Secondary Roads Rehabilitation Company. You all recall they established that with fanfare, capitalized $100 million, another $100 million gone to the company to fix roads, secondary roads they call it, and so on. You know, within a year and a half they closed down that company. They cannot account for the $200 million because the company said they only spent 68. So if they spend 68, where the next 130 million or so, 132 million, where that went? What that went to do? Where did that money go to? If you put the $200 million for this company, they said they spent 68 and they closed down the company under the burden of corruption allegations that were sent to the procurement regulator. To this day, Miss Beverly Khan, I believe her name is, procurement, the head of procurement, has said nothing as to whether the report sent to her on corrupt practices at that Secondary Roads Rehabilitation Company, whether they have investigated, whether they have sent it to the police, whether they have sent it to the DPP. We call upon the procurement regulator again to make a statement on that matter. Brothers and sisters, I mentioned the issue of dengue, and Sister Khadijah Ameen dealt with that matter in great detail. I wanted to get quickly to this issue of Tobago. You all would have seen in the news that issue of Tobago. Now, I don't know how to start. I believe that Keith Rowley should return his birth certificate to the Ministry of Legal Affairs. I think they're responsible for registration of death and birth. Not a death certificate, but in a birth certificate. He should return his birth certificate out of shame. Out of shame that being a Tobagonian-born Prime Minister, politician, public officer, he has failed to protect the people of Tobago from crime, from gang violence, from murder, homicide. He has failed to protect an island with a small population, with a lot of thrift, dynamic, innovative people. He has failed to protect the youth of Tobago from crime, and he must now return his birth certificate to the registration of birth and death division of the Ministry of Legal Affairs. He must hang his head in shame, because look where Tobago is today. Quadruple murder. There was a time people said, if things get bad in Trinidad, we'll go to Tobago. There was a time we thought that notwithstanding travel advisories and so on, the tourism sector will get a hold in Tobago. And that is what has happened, because if you know, a lot of the aircrafts and so on, and I think there's an appropriate headline to show on that matter in a little while, but we believed that tourism will continue to generate foreign exchange and revenue in Tobago, notwithstanding crime in Trinidad. Look what has happened. Look what has happened, brothers and sisters. And the Prime Minister goes and have a national security meeting there. That is grand charge. That is gallery. That is politics. That is the 2 seats in Tobago. That is the 2 seats in Tobago they are campaigning for in the next year, to try and smuggle their way and stay into government. That is what that is about. That is gallerying, because nothing will happen. I'll give you one example, and one example to start with. Do you know in 2014, under the Partnership Administration, we erected 185 CCTV cameras in Tobago. It was the first time Tobago saw CCTV cameras in that way. They would have had CCTV cameras at banks and so on. But for the public to deal with law and order and to deal with crime, it was the first time that Tobago saw CCTV cameras for law enforcement was under the Partnership Administration. 185. Do you know how much cameras are functioning today? 181. They fix a few, I must say, but they have not added one single new CCTV camera in 9 years. In 9 years, the PNM never put one new additional CCTV camera anywhere in Tobago. We left 185, 181 working now. By now, you would have thought Tobago would have had, at this time, given the crisis they face as well, they would have had about 1,000 CCTV cameras operating. The Prime Minister now says, no, hold on, we're going for a command center. Do you know our project with the CCTV cameras successful under the partnership, and they dismantled all our successful crime fighting projects? And I want to say at the outset that the United National Congress will return very soon and restore law and order in Trinidad and Tobago. We will restore security. We will restore law, order, security, and safety in Tobago and in Trinidad. We will do that. We give that assurance to you, the people. So they went and Grand Charge in Tobago, Rowley. He says, command center, do you know our proposal was for CCTV cameras and 3 command centers to be established? 2 in Trinidad, 1 in Tobago. And this is the work we did in 2014-15. We already had contracts up and running between an international company and a local company, servicing the CCTV camera, expanding coverage, doing the command centers, 1 for Tobago, 2 for Trinidad. 9 years later, he discovered you need a command center in Tobago. 9 years later. Umpteen murders later. And then come with this fascinating, I have to look for my words now. This is still being beamed to a general audience. He came with this idea that the problem in Tobago, it have too much Tobagonian policemen. Now, let me say this. There's an island territory in the Caribbean, to an island called St. Kitts and Nevis. Do you know they have less people than Tobago? So where their policemen come from? Where the policemen has come from? Martinique? Where has come from? Puerto Rico? Where the policemen in St. Kitts and Nevis come from? Where the policemen in Grenada come from? Where the policemen in Barbados come from? Where the policemen in St. Lucia come from? Huh? They bring them from the Maldives Islands? They bring them from Hawaii? There are police officers from there. The issue is not you have Tobagonian policemen and too much Tobagonian policemen. So what's the problem in Trinidad? We have too much Trinidadian policemen? That's the problem? And I think it was MP Hussein who reminded us that they just passed with fanfare the polygraph bill and so on, to polygraph with our support, I believe, yes? We voted for that. To polygraph and test police officers and so on, to weed out corrupt officers and those who are involved in, skullduggery with the criminal underworld and so on. And Rowley is saying now the solution is to move Tobago policeman. So bring Tobago policeman Trinidad and take Trinidad policeman, put them Tobago. That's the solution to the problem. That cannot be the solution. Let me tell you, the solution to dealing with the crime in Tobago and Trinidad is more resources for the police, is better management of the police service, is more boots on the ground, patrols not only in the day, patrols in the night, better intelligence, and I'm coming to the SSA in a few minutes. That is the solution. That is the solution to dealing with it. So the people of Tobago, don't take chain up with this kind of there's a word I have but I can't use. Don't take chain up with this type of gallerying of the Prime Minister. Because nothing will change. Changing Trinidad policeman and bringing Tobago police here and switching and things is not the solution to crime. That is not it. And telling us, well, you're setting up command center. In 9 years, you didn't add 1 CCTV camera. Which command center you setting up? And who getting the contract for that? Your friend? We come into one, Mr. Alan Warner. I have a note here to raise that too. So we come into that just now. So people of Tobago, be cautious about accepting this politicized approach by the Prime Minister to crime. The gangs have now found that Tobago is a greenfield site. Tobago is a greenfield site. The gangs have found that. And Rowley does not care. He cares more about goat and sheep in Tobago than the youth of Tobago. I'm telling you. All these years we know he cares about goat and sheep. He doesn't care about the youth in Tobago. Their life, their livelihood. This is why they are starving Tobago. Brothers and sisters, they are starving Tobago. Today, there's a crisis where a particular quarry, mining area called Studley Park, I believe, that has been operational for years, providing revenue to the THA. Today, they will not get the license. I will come to it quickly here. Today, their problem is that they will not get the license from this central government. A blasting license has expired in 2021. They are still waiting for it. They're still waiting for it. Do you know when they had to give, I think we saw some, screenshots before. When they have to give the blasting license, gun license to a friend called Alan Warner. Is Mr. Warner Alan Warner? Not Jack Warner, Alan Warner. He's a friend of the Prime Minister. And the Prime Minister said so himself. Listen to this tape. I think he said so. Ivan, you have the tape?
Member for Oropuch East.
Thank you very much. Madam Speaker, to the Prime Minister. Prime Minister, are you aware whether or not in the public construction of the terminal building in the Piaco at ANR International Airport, Inez investment of your friend Alan Warner is involved in the construction with subcontracts? Are you aware of that?
Madam Speaker, every citizen of Trinidad and Tobago is my friend, including Alan Warner. But I'm not aware that Alan Warner is involved in this project at Crown Point.
You have heard the tape. Mr. Warner is his friend. He said, I will give me the license for him. He was asking the Commissioner of Police for an FUL license, I believe. He said, give it to me. I will take it up for him. So how come you could help him with license for gun, license for blasting and so on, is quarrying and so on, but you cannot help the Tobago House of Assembly to get a blasting license, not a blasted license, a blasting license, so that they can export their mineral resource. Since 2021, you cannot do that. Stuart Young, when asked why was he pressuring the Commissioner of Police to get a license for blasting for Mr. Warner, he said, I was checking to make sure they're doing their job well. I was checking just to make sure the police were actually doing their job. So you don't check the police to see if they're doing their work now to get the license for Studley Park. You can't do that because that's the THA and they voted you out in Tobago. So this is your malice. This is a campaign of hate and malice against the THA. So they will make no money. You know what is the value of the resources at Studley Bay that they can make? 200 million United States dollars they can make for their development in Tobago. You rob them of that with malice because they didn't vote for you. They didn't vote for you. Today you want to tell us you're putting command center in Tobago and Tobago police is the cause of problem in Tobago. Imagine that. Do you know, check the records, the detection rate for serious crimes is higher in Tobago than it is in Trinidad? The detection rate of serious crimes is higher in Tobago than Trinidad. So what you bothering with Tobago policeman for? They're doing a good job, but they have no solution. They have no solution. So we call upon the government to act. Just how you act in favor of Alan Warner, act in favor of the THA to ensure that they get the appropriate license for exporting and so on, their minerals, their resources, so that they can earn revenue which you are prepared not to give them, which you have starved them. And that is an important point, brothers and sisters, that I raised there, because that is the attack on Tobago. I now come to this matter of the secret report, the unknown reports on the SSA. Last week, Dr. Rowley came to Parliament and announced, in a moment that the earth stopped rotating. It was that type of moment when the rotation of the earth stopped, when he announced that there was an attempted coup. There was planning and plotting of an attempted coup. I think the earth stood still momentarily with that kind of bombshell announcement. He stood in the Parliament and did that. There was a front page headline as well. Front page headline, Rowley on coup. I think we have that headline as well. So big headline, all type of information. 70,000 rounds of ammunition cannot be found. A cult existing in a church, and they want to take over the government. Nobody believe him. They did a poll, I think, on one of the television networks. Maybe this one itself, CNC3, yeah. Maybe this. They did a poll, they asked 10 people, if you believe the Prime Minister. I think 11 people said no. Well, 9 persons, actually. 9 said no. I don't know what the last person, it could have been Rowley himself. Said they don't know. So, the point I'm making is nobody believes him. This coup talk is a deflection, as Mrs. Kamla Prasad-Bisesa said. It is to distract you, take your attention away, brothers and sisters of the press. That coup talk, that reminded me, because I was there, of the email gate. Anybody remember email gate? That Mrs. Prasad-Bisesa was spending her spare time to plot to assassinate a journalist with her ministers. Instead of going to cabinet, we would meet with her somewhere to plot to kill journalists. That was what Rowley said in the Parliament. He used the Parliament to say that. and then came with fabricated emails. And when he couldn't explain that this was not an address and this was not so, he said, well, forget the email now. Think of the issue. Maybe the issue is true, not the emails. This is Emailgate 2. All of the coup is Emailgate 2. That is what we face today by this Prime Minister. So, okay, we heard of coup and so on. So I made a call. We have the newspaper too. I made a call. I said, let the Joint Select Committee on National Security receive that report so we can inquire, we can investigate what is this attempted coup about. Hines responded. We have the response from Hines as well. Hines said, what Moonilal talking about? Moonilal no, it have no report. Would you believe Minister Hines himself, National Security, said in the newspaper, it was in the newspaper last week at some time. I think we should have that one given. Hines said, when the media asked him that Moonilal has called for the report to go to the Joint Select Committee, he jumped up and he said, oh no, it have no report, it's an unfinished report. So Rowley went to Parliament with an unfinished report, made bombastic allegations, impugned the character of persons with an unfinished report, and cannot now produce the report. And that is a very serious matter. I want to make a point here about that. Apart from the Emailgate, the distraction, the incomplete report, this government has now picked up a dangerous dictatorial habit of the Maduros of the world, of other dictators, where they have secret reports that you cannot see. We got it in Parliament the other day. The Attorney General, that fellow, when he stands up to talk, if he had 2 pages, he just mix it up. If he had 2 pages in his hand, he just mix up the page. A barman saw him doing that one day, Khadijah, and the barman said, thank God you don't sell drinks behind here. You could imagine what he'd do. Mixing up every order he gets. So 2 pages, he just mix up the 2 pages. So he came to Parliament and he said, we want to change the law dealing with the Chief State Solicitor Office. And this is based on a report. We said, well, give us the report. He said, no, I can't give all you're going to make bacchanal. So he preferred to make bacchanal alone. He said, no, if I give all you that report, all you might see things and make bacchanal and scandal. So all you take my word now. The report say, do this. That is what the PNM is doing. Secret reports. So this SSA is based on a secret, unfinished, incomplete report. Look at it. SSA coup plot says Rowley. When we say, well, give us the report, Hines said, have no report. And more than that, he said, Moonilal ought to know it have no report. How about I ought to know that, huh? I am the National Security Council. How do I know that? The Prime Minister read from a report. He said that the report is there. There's a police investigation running on that as well. Mrs. Erla Christopher Harewood in a JSC meeting a couple days ago said they are investigating some of those matters. Now, Rowley cannot be talking about information from a police investigation. He has to be talking about the audit report. So he comes with this, but there is no report. Mr. Mitchell, a member of the Joint Select Committee, I am a member of that Committee on National Security. I was appalled that a letter he wrote appeared in the Express today, at page 5 of the Express. A letter appeared, a newspaper article based on a letter. Mr. Mitchell sent a letter to the Joint Select Committee saying the Joint Select Committee should investigate and examine this issue of attempted coup, of the missing ammunition, 70,000, 100,000, by the time they finish. By the time they finish, brothers and sisters, they might say we're missing 10 million rounds of ammunition. By the time they finish this story. Every week they talk, the story gets more ammunition missing. Mitchell is calling on the Joint Select Committee to investigate the coup, investigate the missing $70,000 ammunition, as they call it, they allege. We have said, no, we are not supporting that. Bring the report. Based upon the report, we can investigate. We cannot investigate. The opposition will not be used by the government, will not be used by Rowley to conduct a witch hunt, to defame persons, to create scandal and bacchanal where you have no report, you have no facts upon which to go forward. That is happening, I remind you, that is happening in the context of the Point Fortin Highway. There's a PNM committee interviewing PNM people to come up with a PNM recommendation for a PNM scandal. They have gone to Parliament investigating the construction of the South Highway to Point Fortin, which we are proud We started since Eric Williams promised that highway in 1966 or 70, somewhere there. Eric Williams promised a highway. Kamla Prasad Bisesa built the highway. We are proud of that. We are proud. They have completed something down there. It's not a highway. It's a jigsaw puzzle. There are 4 pieces to put together. If you take the highway, you'll end up in a river. So you have to connect about 4 different places before you reach the point 14, 4 people down on that side. So they are conducting a witch hunt in Parliament. 9 years we have been in opposition. Not one police investigation. Not one policeman come to my door and say, look, we investigated highway. We want to know from you what happened and so on. Not one issue they can raise. But they have a witch hunt before a joint select committee. And Randall Mitchell, he wants to put a next witch hunt now on the SSA. But they don't want to release the report because they know that report is allegedly written by a civilian who lacks authority to conduct that type of report for police work. Only the police can investigate in this country, not a civilian. They have not, our information is that even the people they fired, they did not interview. There was no natural justice for persons to explain anything. They came up with findings without natural justice and process. And Rowley of all people knows that. When he got away years ago on the land date matter, he didn't get away on the facts of land date. He got away because there was a procedural issue where the court ruled, the authority ruled, that his right to natural justice to be heard, that right was violated. And he got away by the skin of his teeth, by the skin of his head. He got away. But it was not on the facts. Remember that issue in Tobago, Gravel and Sand walk across the road, I think, in Landgate. The Gravel and Sand walk from one part of Tobago to the next part. That was the issue in Tobago. So Rowley of all people know that report, or unfinished report, cannot stand up. That cannot stand up. The police cannot even use that for an investigation. But they want to scandalize. They want to criminalize. They want to demonize persons. And that is behind all of this about SSA and coup and all that type of thing. While that is happening, we have had in the, and I wanted to share with you as well. Look, I have in my hand a document here. I have in my hand a document. This document is a performance assessment, January 2020 to June 2022. Yeah. June performance assessment, January 2020 to June 2022. Well, it says confidential, but confidential means I can have it. This is by the Strategic Services Agency. A report. This is the last performance assessment that was sent to the Minister of National Security, Fitzgerald Hines. Could you believe he has this as well as me? He has this. And in this report, the SSA spells out all their work, their challenges. Members of the press, look, the report is here. It spells out their mission. It spells out their objectives. How they have been working with the police. I put on my glasses for this one now. They have been working with the police. They have generated over that time, I told you, actionable intelligence, 431. Intelligence products, 2,066. They have done investigative support for the TTPS. They have applied for 131 evidential warrants. They have cleared 143,000 evidential calls. They have provided 217 pieces of actionable intelligence to law enforcement. Actionable intelligence. They have forensically examined over 300 devices seized in prison, facilitated the country's only mobile forensic extraction and analysis platform. This is the work of the SSA. Critical, brothers and sisters. And here the work that they do related to what they have been doing. Persons arrested and charged with narcotics, marijuana, persons arrested for threats of life, vehicle larceny, kidnapping for ransom, cocaine seized, firearms seized, kidnapping, escaped prisoners recovery, stolen vehicles, burglary, theft. They have been working to provide evidence, intelligence with evidential value, actionable intelligence to the police. This is what they have been doing. They have coordinated and supported at their fusion center. They support 11 major events. The CPL, carnival, elections, anti-crime exercises by the TTPS. They support the TTPS, the ODPM. They work with all of them. Do you know the SSA also has CCTV cameras that they manage? They have that as well. They do that. And they have a layout of the country and a web of cameras. I think I won't get into that necessarily. They continually improve training. And this is a critical one I wanted to get to. This is one. Do you know the SSA was asked by Rowley, Hines, and Young to train about 7 other law enforcement entities, to train them, including firearm training and so on. So they complain today the SSA have firearm and ammunition. They have that as well for training, apart from equipping persons who are entitled to be equipped with firearms and weapons and so on for their jobs. So they have been involved in providing education and training to the TTPS, the Defense Force, the fire services, the municipal police. They have been involved in that, doing diploma programs, courses, education, advanced research they have done on serious crime, enhanced information for the police. They have enormous technological capacity, and that is the issue I'm coming to in a minute. Their stakeholders include the National Security Council, the police, the Immigration Division, the Customs and Excise, the Central Bank, the PCA, the DPP, Defense Force, etc., etc., etc. So I raise this to tell you that Minister Hines, at all material time, was aware of the work of the SSA. He was aware, and he ought to be aware, because this document here was sent to him in his capacity as Minister of National Security. So when today they talk about they can't explain 70,000 wrong ammunition and higher-end practice and saying, there was a minister with statutory oversight. According to the Act of Parliament, he must oversee the SSA. So whatever you claim happened under his watch, and he ought to be fired if you believe it's true. The fact that Rowley refuses to fire Hines means that Rowley himself doesn't believe any coup attempt and any ammunition cannot be accounted for. Otherwise, he would fire the Minister of National Security, who has oversight over this. And this is a report, the latest, hot off the press, latest report on the SSA, its work that has been handed to National Security and would find itself on the table of the National Security Council as well. So let Hines know that we know that he knows. And he cannot hide to say he did not know what was happening and come with cock and bull story about coup d'etat and Nancy's story about missing 70,000 rounds of ammunition and so on. So on that score, I will just refer to 1 or 2 other small matters before I take my seat. And that small matter I'll refer to is, of course, the major problem with infrastructure in this country that has been made worse by the rains. Today, as we speak, I believe there is a village or some locality in South Trinidad in the area of Faizabad that is now marooned, locked off from the world because of the collapse of infrastructure. And this is an area where Dr. Bodo has assured us that he has tried repeatedly to get the authorities to address it. The regional corporation down there, I believe it is the Siparia Borough Corporation, have tried on numerous occasions. They have failed to meet and treat with that problem, and therefore today we have citizens who live on this island but are cut off from this island. And that is PNM management style. It is shameless when you really think that on this little island that you can lose bridge, you can lose road in this manner because of their failure to fix. We assure you, brothers and sisters of the national community, that we have already been working on an infrastructure development program to ensure that the roads, the highways, the bridges are repaired in good time as soon as we return to office. We have already been working out our crime policy, crime fighting agenda. I want to tell you again that the UNC will return law and order and security to Trinidad and Tobago. And I give you the assurance we will do that. Mrs. Prasad Bisesa has outlined on numerous occasions with monotonous frequency our crime fighting strategies. She has undertaken the anti-crime symposia as well towards leading to policy formulation, so that we are very convinced that that issue we will we will meet and treat with that issue in due course. So I know we have taken a bit of time. Unless there's anything else for me to add, I will leave it there and invite members of the press to pose some questions, if you may, to myself or MP Ameen, as the case may be. Thank you very much.
Before I circle back to the matters that you would have raised, mostly on ME, Dr. Moonilal, I just wanted to get your thoughts on something that we would have published in the Guardian newspaper, where there's reports that the government would have withdrawn over $160 million from the HSF, and there's no sort of account for that. Is that something that you're concerned about? Is that something that you're aware of? Is it something that you're looking into as well?
Okay. Jesse, you won't believe it, but I did have a note. I did have a note on it, and I took note of it. And our the political leader, I'm sure, and our shadow minister of finance, I believe, Mr. Tanku, will be addressing those matters in due course. But what I can tell you is, in the Guardian today, I believe page 5, if I'm not mistaken, it may not be page 5, Lord, there is an article that the government went in December 2023. Withdraw 160 million United States dollars from the Heritage and Stabilization Fund. That is almost 1.1 billion Trinidad and Tobago dollars they have withdrawn from the Heritage Stabilization Fund. This is the article in question here. This came as somewhat of a shock as well, and it is the Auditor General's report that has it. And they have failed to say what they are doing with this. When Mrs. Bisesa said, and we repeat that, this country is broke because they do not generate revenue. They have had no significant investment in this country. You know, after 9 years, they blame the UNC. They say, we're chasing away investors. Imagine that the opposition chasing away investors that the government attracting. Have you heard more hogwash than that? Have you heard more? So, $160 million. So what the government is doing now, they are borrowing money to run the shop. The country is broke. The economy has collapsed. They have crashed the economy. There's no investment. There's no foreign exchange. There's no business activity. They are borrowing money to live. That is like a family have a house. They have children, but they're not working. They're not generating income. They're not generating money. They cannot buy food and clothes. They cannot pay rent. So what they do is they borrow money to live. Imbert is borrowing money to live. So this money, he will say, is going to the consolidated fund so you can manage the affairs of the country, meaning pay wages, pay capital for goods and services and so on. Because the government has failed to attract investment, to generate revenue of all kinds in every sector. And this is it. So we are calling on the government to explain forthwith what was this money used for. If you notice, coming down to the election, they are borrowing 160 million. Well, this is not borrowing, they're taking. They take 160 million US. They're borrowing, I believe, 700 million United States dollars from another source. They intend, their objective, which they will not reach, but their objective is to buy out the electorate for the election. They will buy out, they will use the money, a big part of the money to buy out the electorate, and the other piece of the money they will put in their pocket when they leave in. I want to tell the country, we are on guard. We have a special machine to check them when they are leaving office, body scan them. Because they will go with the pen, the paper, they will go with condensed milk and brown sugar when they leave in office. So we have to be alert now that they're not borrowing money to steal. Because if you have no money in the treasury, there's nothing to thief. So they will borrow money to steal. And we must be cognizant of that. But as I said, our colleague, Shadow Minister of Finance, will speak to this matter in due course. I dealt with security today. One more thing I wanted to add, and I want to say this with great respect and some care, as someone who loves music myself, of a particular genre. Mr. Hines came with this brilliant anti-crime strategy, where we believe now we will sing ourselves out of crime. So there's a competition with young people to compose and do production with music and things to go with that. Well, let me begin by saying this. Music moves life. The history of music is the history of life. Music can put you to sleep. Music can wake you up. Music can make you aggressive. Music can calm you. The power of music is to move the human spirit and therefore generate conduct with that. If you're in an elevator, there's a particular music. If you're going to a boxing match, those of us young enough to remember Rocky, you will remember the song. Alright? Today, music is the same. It hasn't changed that way. There are different genres that appeals to different people and appeals in different circumstances. We support the involvement of young people in music. In fact, we have spoken as well of the importance of investing in the youth in terms of culture, having facilities for small panyards for production, recording studio and so on to help. But I want to say, the strategy for dealing with crime, right? People don't commit crime if they are certain they will be caught. That's how you stop crime. If you are certain you will be caught, find the most hardback murderer, the most cold and brutal kidnapper. If you tell him that, listen, there's only a 100% chance you'll be caught, he don't want to be caught. The way to stop crime is to ensure that criminals are caught. You cannot sing them to sleep. You cannot use what Hines is suggesting, that you will get all the youths involved and somehow they will compose songs and allow people to put down their guns. We have music already. Could I reply to you and tell you there are prominent artists in this country, very prominent soca artists, very prominent chutney artists, very prominent musicians who have good compositions as well on dealing with crime, patriotism, laying down your guns. Those things are good nation building, socially uplifting calypsos and chutney and other forms of music and so on. That is to be welcomed. But that is not the hallmark, backbone strategy to deal with crime. You have to deal with it from the point of resources, from the point of of strengthening your institutions, from the point of detection, from the point of technology. Look at the electronic monitoring unit. Remember a poodle or something bite off one from a man foot? To this day, we have no explanation. They got body cams for police. They said the battery not charging long enough, so they can't use that. Those are the issues, the nut and bolt issues to deal with crime. I wish the program well and the youth would get involved and so on, but that cannot be your backbone strategy. That is good to mobilize youth. That is good for the youth to express themselves, earn $1 if they can and so on. But that is not your central policy mechanism for dealing with this rampant criminality that we face. Okay?
Also very quickly, Dr. Moonilal, in the report that you would have articulated from the SSA that would have been presented to the National Security Minister as well, you would have outlined a number of the initiatives and undertakings that its members would have done over a particular period. Given that an audit was also recently done, revealing purported plots of a coup and that sort of thing, what are your thoughts about the SSA, its operations? Do you support the SSA? Do you think it's something that we should continue to maintain? What's your general takeaway when it comes to the SSA? Well,
let me say that the SSA is a statutory body. It is rooted in an act of parliament. We have over the years strengthened the SSA during our term in government. We believe that intelligence is critical to fighting crime. I want to tell you, I have known, because I have sat on the National Security Council myself for 5 years, if there's a kidnapping, horrible as it is, police alone cannot find the victim and cannot rescue the victim and cannot save a life. I would tell you over the years, from my own first-hand experience, 90% of the work in dealing with kidnapping and so on is intelligence-driven. Intelligence will tell you where the kidnapper is, where the victim is being held. What is everything? I don't want to get into detail, but intelligence is important to solving crime, to detecting crime, to prosecuting. So the SSA plays a critical role. But this SSA has been undermined by the government because the SSA received equipment, very, very important state-of-the-art equipment, unbelievable equipment, utilizing as well artificial intelligence and so on. And the government, Dr. Rowley, has to tell us whether or not this fight with the SSA is to get the equipment out of the SSA, which is controlled by statute, into a branch of the police service where he himself has supervisory capacity that reports to him. A branch of the police service reports to him. It could be a normal branch, a special branch, I don't know. But it reports to him. And whether or not this fight here has to do with taking equipment from SSA and putting it in the hands of a unit that reports to him, so he can have his way and they can go and spook and they can go and macro and do surveillance on political opponents, trade union leaders, religious leaders, youth activists, and so on. That is the issue that we must confront. But you cannot solve crime without an intelligence community. I mean, many of us watch TV and understand that too. You cannot deal with the criminal elements unless you have intelligence, great, strong institutions that are resourced in law and materially. And we support the SSA, we support the work they have done over the years. Some of us are aware of it, but we are critical of and we condemn the government for undermining the intelligence community in Trinidad and Tobago. Anything else? Any questions anyone would have for members of the media, members of the press? Sometimes we do receive questions. Receive questions from members of the press. There is one on the SSA, but it's a matter that we have already dealt with. So we'll leave it at that. So, any further questions? No, I believe. Any comments you wish to make? So, okay. Well, with that in mind, then it's just my role to lift the veils and indicate that we have come to the end of this press conference. We want to thank members of the press for coming out to Shogunas this morning at our headquarters, UNC headquarters, members of the press who have followed on the social media platform, members of the national community, members abroad who have listened as well. We thank you for your interest, and we hope that this morning was enlightening to all who listened to it, and look forward in the future. We have several other activities of the UNC on the horizon, including press conferences and others matters, and you can on Sunday. What is the of course, Sunday, the regular Sunday morning press conference, I believe, will be on, and colleagues will appear and speak on specific sectoral issues. And tonight at 8 p.m. on our social media platforms, UNC platform and so on, this press conference will be repeated. So thank you all very much, and God bless.
We stand united in the belief that if you empower a community, the community empowers the country.
We are the party that gave every child a secondary school education since 2001.
By building more schools in 11 years than others did in 40. We believe that no child,
rich or poor, should be left behind.
Which is why we give every 4-month student a laptop to expand their minds and their dreams.
We are the party that put police cars back on the streets
and gave the police a $1,000 bonus because we believe that we should support the persons who are protecting you.
We are the party that reduced the murder rate lowest in 14 years. We expanded GATE, stopped the property tax, and increased maternity leave.
We are the party that invested in you and in your community by investing in schools, community centers, lighted parks, 24-hour health centers, and the most extensive road repair program in decades.
We believe that education is always a solution, and that no one should have to pick between sending their child to school or buying food.
We are the party that works for you. We are the first responders in every situation, working to deliver a better standard of living for you and your family.
And most importantly, we have confidence in you, the people of Trinidad and Tobago. This is not a campaign, it's a movement based on building communities and strengthening families.
Come out and join us, and together we will get the nation working and moving again. Our children will once again have access to GATE and technology.
We will improve healthcare
by cutting the time it takes to see a doctor in an emergency. We will establish a senior citizen unit in every major hospital and staff the hospital with the doctors and nurses you need to create a first-class healthcare system. We will focus on creating high-paying jobs, fixing our laws to remove red tape, and ensuring that you and your family are safer. We will reduce corporate taxes to jumpstart the economy, create a special investment zone along the East-West corridor, and work with entrepreneurs to build a digital economy. This is an investment in your community to move the nation forward and get TNT working again.
Whether you are from 4th Street in Barataria to Railway Road in Dow Village, from Green Street in Tunapuna to Clark Road in Dibay, from La Hoqueta to Moruga, from Mayaro to Scarborough, we are one people with the same dreams of a better tomorrow. And when we stand together, we win together. We are UNC and proud.
Everybody now, let's go!